So this is my league starter. It is not a normally recommended league starter build. You're gonna have some gameplay in the background. It's a 2-button build, so if you don't like 2-button builds, this one is not for you. This is kind of a guide, but it's not my own build. It is Ben's build. I played it last league. I believe he doesn't have a guide for it, so I'm gonna make my own. I'll make my own leveling tree and things like that. It is a little bit clunky to play because you are gonna have to keep your Arcanist brand recalls up all the time to get 10 Blade Blast of unloading. Now we have two versions of this build. We have Assassin build, which is what I'm playing. It's a lot easier to get 100% critical strike chance. You gain elusive, which is it's an okay buff, but it's not anything crazy. You get a lot of multi chance on your own, and you got extra power charges here. And you take reduced damage for at least 2 rare or unique enemies nearby, and 25% more damage while die most one rare or unique nearby. So you are doing a bit more damage to here, and you can take reflect damage from your crits, which is nice. We do have the recommended, which is Saboteur here. Saboteur is the recommended one, and you can see here it does have less damage from area taken. You can blind enemies. You have more cooldown recovery, which is nice for the brand recall. It makes it a little bit less clunky. And you do have trigger bots, which gives you shock. Shock is not included here in my DPS calculations. And this is 34 mil at the end game. And if we go to configuration, you can see there's nothing really ticked here. It's just power charges, frenzy, endurance charges, and elusive and onslaught from the flask. You have onslaught here. There. That's your onslaught flask. So that's everything. Nothing here is really checked. You might have more than 34 mil, but this is what your aim is gonna be, is 34 mil DPS. You can play the Saboteur version if you want a better version of the build, and if you're good at gearing, but I'm gonna be playing the Assassin version in solo self-farm. I played this in the last league, and I do have my gear here, which is also the gear that is in the gameplay video. And you can see it's pretty bad gear. Like, all of this is very bad gear, and it's clearing tier 16 without any issues at all. The only good item I really have is Mage Blood. Everything else is pretty bad. So we have leveling gear here, which is mostly just, well, max HP and resist. I am gonna be leveling as Essence Drain. 1 to 12 is gonna be Caustic Arrow, as you can see here. And then from 12 we're gonna be leveling as Essence Drain with the Essence Drain buff. You can level with Rolling Magma if you want, but it's a little bit more awkward. With Essence Drain, you are getting these chaos damage very early on for your build, which is really nice. If you are gonna level as Rolling Magma, which is what I did last league, you have a lot of traveling to do. You're gonna go up here, then you're gonna go up here, and then you're gonna grab these here, then you're gonna grab the HP here, and then you're gonna grab the fire here. And then you basically just do what any BB or DD guy did last season for Rolling Magma, leveling an Armageddon brand. But it is a lot more traveling before the build comes online. It is probably still better at level 50 for leveling, but I suspect with Essence Drain buff it is gonna be just fine for leveling, especially when we have all of these chaos nodes right next to us. And this is pretty simple. You can see the entire tree here for leveling. Everything is here. And at level 70 we are gonna do a swap. It's gonna be around 20 regrets, but we are gonna have gold, so it's not the worst respec. You are gonna respec later when you do here. You are gonna respec out of these physical nodes here, but that's not a big deal either. That's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's like 5 nodes you're respecing, which is totally fine. And this is pretty much the build. This is no adorned, no clusters, just levels. This is level 96. If we go mid-game gear and go on skills, this is obviously on a 6-link, and it is without any Awakened gems. I don't have Awakened gems in here. You can get Awakened Brutality, Awakened Increased Area of Effect. You can get Empower, which I don't have on right now. You're gonna get Empower instead of increase critical damage, I think it is. Yeah, instead of critical damage, that's what you are gonna replace with Empower. And you can see here, it is 12 million just from levels alone, levels and gear. This is not the best gear, but it is mid-game gear. You are gonna be doing tier 16s when you do get this gear. Obviously, these are Übershaper gloves. If you remove these, you are gonna lose 5 mil DPS from the gloves itself. So these are very important. You could say that they're not really mid-game. And if you do want to remove them, well, then you still have 7 million DPS, which is totally fine. I do have some notes in here as well. Anoints are here for entrance, for spell suppression, struggling that. Vanquisher is for damage, and Prismatic Skin is very late game once you have melting of flesh and stuff. We are gonna go for Dawnbreaker here in the mid game. If you have a rare shield, it is gonna be more damage, but you're gonna get a lot more physical defense. As you can see here, 31 physical max hit. If I change it to the late game shield, it is gonna be 24 max hit here instead. So it is a lot more max hit, but a lot less DPS. So if you're on softcore and you don't mind maybe dying, you don't need to get this shield, but this shield is very nice for getting tanky. We obviously have Lightning Coil, which is the standard. And besides that, nothing too crazy here. I mean, this gear might take you a week or so to get, depending if you're solo self-found or trade league. The gloves is definitely the hardest to get in here. And this is all reasonable gear in my opinion. There's nothing too crazy here. Adorned has been nerfed, which is why I made a no adorned with clusters. And you can see just from getting clusters here, you go from 12 mil to 17 mil just from getting clusters. This obviously has melting of flesh in here, and it has Watcher's Eye, stuff like that. It is not resist cap with this gear right now. It is with obviously here it is resist cap. It isn't here for whatever reason, but that's fine. You will figure that out when you're playing the actual game. But yeah, it is 17 million damage once you get clusters, and 12 will out. It's really good. Like, you shouldn't struggle with damage. The biggest issue is survivability, which you get fixed once you get the Dawnbreaker shield. And then very late game, this is Ben's setup he was using. You're probably not gonna get Defiance of Destiny. You might not get Mage Blood, but this is set up here. Melting Flesh is where you're gonna get a lot of your tankiness from. As you can see here, if I go from no Adorn, this is still pretty good tankiness. And it's obvious 31 mil DPS at this point already. 31 mil without Adorned, and 34 mil with Adorned. So you don't actually need Adorn for this build anymore. Adorned is an upgrade if you do get all of these jewels, but that's a lot of work. So I did go ahead and make this non-Adorned version, which is actually pretty good. You're losing like 3 mil DPS and you're losing like 30k effective hit pool. It's not the biggest deal, it does make a difference, but this is way easier to gear without the Adorned and not having to roll jewels in solo self-farm. And you can see it is perfectly fine without it. We do have some changes to this build compared to last season. There's not a lot changed, but we don't have Divine Blessing anymore, so we are gonna lose some damage here. Maybe you don't wanna run Grace. You can take Grace off if that's what you want, but you are gonna lose around 10k evasion. I don't recommend it unless you are on softcore. Then maybe you want to, but I would not recommend it. We are not gonna be able to fit all of these hours anymore unless we get like a crazy mana reservation from somewhere else. You are gonna want Purity of Lightning and Pride. And I would suggest Cemetery is the one that you remove late game. It is gonna be a DPS nerf, obviously. You are gonna lose like 6 mil DPS, but we can't realistically fit Cemetery in this build late game. Cemetery is what we used to do with Divine Blessing in the last league, but yeah. You are not gonna run Purity of Lightning until you're very late game and you have Melting of Flesh, so you don't have to, you are not gonna be run Purity of Lightning early game until very late in the game, so you are gonna have Cemetery here if you can fit it in. Obviously here in PvP we are missing some reserved mana, which you can get from jewels and stuff if you go at Dawn. Obviously at Dawn makes it a little bit easier, but here it's still 14%, so yeah, you are gonna have to deal with these hours and choose which one you want. We have Cemetery, Pride, and Grace. Those are the 3 you're mainly gonna be switching around with. If we take Pride, this is 25 with the Cemetery off, right? If we put Cemetery on, but take Pride off, then it's 24. That's why I'll take Pride off. As long as you're hitting a crit cap, which isn't that hard on Assassin, you can take Cemetery off. That's why I play Assassin, because it's a lot easier to gear. And that's basically everything to the build. Everything you need is here. If you do want to ask me questions, you can. I am going to be streaming this as a League Standard build. I am going to say this is not my own build once again. This is a build that Ben made. I don't know if it's Ben's original build, but it is a build that Ben made. And it's a build that I have been playing last league from Ben that I really enjoyed. And I just wanted to make a guide on it because there isn't a guide for this build this league, and it's my league starter, so I wanted to set everything up. I am by no means a professional PoE player, and I might not be able to answer every single question you have. I do have like 1k hours in the game, so I'm not a total noob. I have played hardcore, but there are questions that I do not know the answer to, and maybe you can ask Ben. I don't know if he will answer you or not, but you can try. It's gonna be Twitch TV /Ben, I believe. I will link his stream down below. But yeah, this is everything. Hope you enjoy this league. I'm looking forward to it. Peace.